Hello and welcome. As you're entering the role of the new senior executive for QantasLink, a key subsidiary of Qantas Australia, my team members and I are sure that you have many questions surrounding the enterprise bargaining process and the enterprise bargaining agreements that exist within QantasLink. Well, today we'll provide you with all the information you may need about the enterprise bargaining agreement and its process, from background information on an enterprise agreement and the enterprise bargaining process to our recommendations in your preparation for the next round of bargaining and the strategic approaches available for this next stage. We are sure that today's information presented will provide you with everything you may need to succeed in successfully maintaining healthy employment relations while completing enterprise bargaining agreements in a professional manner. So, what is an enterprise agreement and what is the relevant enterprise agreement for this organisation? An enterprise agreement refers to a deal between an employer and employee to provide favourable working conditions and benefits for employees, while ensuring the employer is able to run a profitable organisation. QantasLink is a part of multiple relevant enterprise agreements to cover all labour resources in its operations. The enterprise agreements for its pilots is the short-haul pilots enterprise agreement. This enterprise agreement for pilots is separated from that of long-haul pilots, with short-haul pilots doing multiple day trips with short turnaround times and busy schedules. This explains why QantasLink will only utilise the short-haul pilots enterprise agreement, as a subsidiary of Qantas only completes flights to a vast network of metropolitan and regional destinations across Australia. The enterprise agreement covering QantasLink's flight attendants is the Flight Attendants Association of Australia short-haul division, which works to understand the conditions that their members work under and ensure their members know their conditions that their members work under and their rights and conditions. The final enterprise agreement relevant to QantasLink is the Transport Workers Union, which focuses on the working conditions relevant to ground staff, baggage handlers, maintenance engineers, and administrative employees. So what is the process for making an enterprise agreement in Australia? Well, this process in Australia, specifically in making an enterprise bargaining agreement, involves three distinct stages, being preparation, bargaining, and implementation. The preparation stage involves employers and employees first selecting who they want to represent them within the bargaining process. The bargaining representative for both the employer and employee is selected to participate in discussions to negotiate the terms of an enterprise agreement, and prior to negotiations must listen to their views, gathering information and considering issues relevant to the bargaining context. The process then continues to the bargaining stage, in which the employers and employees, elected representatives, work through the topics in which the issue has risen within. They advocate and negotiate for the best outcome for the people they represent, providing information and justification to support their points of view, allowing both employers and employees, bargaining representatives, the opportunity to work through their clients' issues, updating the employer and employee on the progress being made throughout the negotiation. Then, once the terms of the enterprise agreement are settled by the bargaining committee, it must be voted on by employees and approved by the Fair Work Commission, allowing the agreement to progress to its final stage, being implementation. This stage involves ensuring all members of the newly established agreement understand and can comply with its terms, concluding the process of the enterprise agreement and allowing a business's employers and employees to achieve cohesion within the workforce once again. What is the relevant unions or unions for this organisation? Qantas have a variety of relevant unions that are present based upon which area of their operations they are required to focus upon. For pilots, there are the Australian International Pilots Association and the Australian Federation of Air Pilots, which operate to provide interventions that promote well-being and positive mental health, while also addressing suffering and mental ill health. As well as this, another union present within Qantas's operations are cabin crew unions through the Flight Attendants Association of Australia short-haul union. Their role as a union for cabin crew workers is to represent the collective interest of flight attendants, whilst offering additional programs for career advancement and industry navigation, as well as access to training programs that help flight attendants enhance their skills and remain competitive. And they host events and conferences that facilitate connections with peers, mentors, and industry professionals, fostering valuable networks that can lead to new opportunities. The final union relevant to Qantas is the Transport Workers Union of Australia, due to the variety of roles in the aviation industry that aren't classified as a pilot or flight attendant, advocating of the rights of workers in a variety of roles, which can include ground handlers, refuelers, security screeners. Therefore, it can be understood that Qantas have a wide variety of unions they must maintain relationships with in order to ensure a cohesive organisation and working environment. Now passing on to Kerry to discuss the relevant history between parties.
Hi, I'm Kerry. I want to give you a quick background on the relationship between Qantas, QantasLink, and the relevant unions. This history really shapes how enterprise bargaining works, so it's important context. In 2011, Qantas had a major industrial dispute that grounded all flights and locked out staff. That ended the immediate conflict, but it left a long time lasting sense of mistrust between staff and management. A lot of employees still remember it, and it still influences how negotiations start today. outsource around 1,700 ground handling roles that were covered by enterprise agreements. The transport union took them to court, saying this broke agreements. In 2023, the High Court ruled that Qantas had acted unlawfully. This was a big win for the union and a serious setback for the company. Beyond the court decision, Qantas had to deal with reputational damage and extra cost. The message was clear. Staff and unions are willing to push back if they feel agreements are ignored. So what does this mean? Past disputes have caused tension around pay, workloads, and job security. QantasLink staff in particular often feel overlooked compared to the main Qantas workforce, especially for rostering and regional work. Moving into the next round of bargaining, trust, fairness, and communication are going to be key. Handle it right, and negotiations can be cooperative. But if past issues aren't managed, talks could get tense. So the next slide is going to be talking about enterprise agreements that will need attention. First is pay and allowances. Many employees, including ground staff, pilots, and cabin crew, feel their current pay doesn't match the demands of their work, like long hours, irregular rosters, and high responsibilities. Unions will probably push for higher base pay, better night and weekend loadings, and overtime rates that reflect the job. Next is rostering and scheduling, especially for QantasLink staff in regional areas. Staff want schedules that reduce fatigue, give them some predictability, and let them have more say in their shifts. The company still needs flexibility. So this is about balancing operational needs with employee well-being. Job security is another big point. Past disputes, like the outsourcing case, made staff nervous about their roles. Employees want clear guarantees that positions won't be cut or outsourced without proper consultation. Health and safety are critical too, particularly for operational roles like ground handling. The EA should make safety rules clear, enforce them properly, and provide training and career development opportunities. In short, the next bargaining round needs to balance the company's operational needs with employee well-being and job security. Qantas can prevent disputes, boost morale, and make negotiations more cooperative. Now on to Josh.
As for the recommendations for the next round of bargaining, how should you, as an executive, prepare? So preparation is key to success when entering a bargaining round. This is where parties consult deeply about their interests and who will be affected. Firstly, when entering into an enterprise bargaining agreement, there are a few legally binding details. Under the Fair Work Commission, Qantas must give their employees notice of employee representation rights, such as a union representative and transparency with timeline and enterprise agreements. Both parties must legally uphold good faith bargaining. This includes participation, disclosing information, and timely responses to proposals. For QantasLink, a key step is gathering data. This means looking at the financials and assessing what they can afford based on their past performances. Also conducting an industry analysis of competitors such as Virgin and other domestic airlines can show what they are paying their employees. By gathering data, benchmarking ensures that proposal is realistic and advantageous in a competitive market to retain respected pilots, cabin crew, and ground staff. Beyond data, Qantas needs to understand their stakeholders. As different unions represent different areas of the organisation, their priorities will be different. To not be caught off guard, Qantas must assess their stakeholders' wants and needs. For example, the pilots may value rostering to minimise fatigue, cabin crew may value job development, and ground staff may value job security. By mapping their priorities ahead of time, it ensures a unified leadership team with a strong presence. As a senior executive, you must not send mixed messages, or else unions will pick up on it and plague the proposal. Finally, Qantas must prepare for setbacks such as industrial action. This involves actions such as employee strikes supported by unions to pressure organisations, usually on the benefits and wage agreements. To avoid this, new executives must negotiate from a position of clarity and respect, but prior to bargaining, have measures placed to maintain workflow. What strategic approaches are available? So, in the bargaining process, Qantas faces the dilemma of which strategic or collaborative approach to use. The first model is known as the traditional approach, commonly associated with being disruptive. The main objective is to win or to lose. And this model receives the short-term wins through haggling, adversaries, and competition. However, it often results in one side feeling dissatisfied and damages relationships with stakeholders. Given Qantas's past conflict and distrust, such as the 2011 Qantas industrial dispute, it may risk repeating history and causes further mistrust or industrial actions. An alternative to this result is an interest-based approach. It is consensus-seeking and cooperative. Instead of fighting over an entire situation, parties can mutually work together to find a resolution through integration. The main aim is to result in a win for both sides. Regarding the Qantas short-haul enterprise agreement in 2024, parties have a main concern of improved work-life balance. So therefore, if Qantas offers a fatigue management plan, unions may be open to a more moderate wage increase. This results in a win-win situation, maintaining a long relationship between management and labour by upholding trust and honesty. Overall, interest-based bargaining is the most appropriate approach for Qantas as beneficial for retaining staff under the enterprise bargaining agreement. Upholding good faith bargaining and showcasing the livelihood of employees is just as important as financial wins. So next over to the next speaker.
Hi, I'm Katan. How can this strategy be effectively applied in practice? Prior to the introduction of interest-based bargaining in the enterprise bargaining process, Qantas used a bargaining method more like traditional bargaining. Qantas would utilize strategies that would convene on a win or loss scenario. This resulted in either the business getting what they desire, leaving employees feeling dissatisfied, or there being no consensus reached. Qantas's failure in this process can be viewed through the industrial conflict which occurred in 2011, highlighting how traditional bargaining is ineffective for Qantas. The implementation of these strategies involves many factors, such as the requirement of both parties having representatives, like union representatives and human resource or employer association representatives. During the negotiations, it is important to utilize the good faith bargaining strategy, with both parties sharing all information that should and can be shared, avoiding any coercion. This will aid in both parties having a level of trust between each other, reducing conflict and possible action. Prior to the meeting, it is important that Qantas identifies their interests, objectives, and creates a bargaining plan that can guide the negotiation process. The objective of interest-based bargaining is to get mutual gains. Therefore, the process will involve compromise in the options that will be created. Regarding this, it is important that Qantas presents their interests rather than demands, as demands would lead to a win or loss scenario and defeats the purpose of negotiating. Both parties will collaborate to create options regarding the enterprise agreement. Creating a large number of options will allow for better mutual gains and overall satisfaction. The final steps are selecting options that fit within the given criteria, reaching a consensus. The involvement of third-party mediation throughout the bargaining process will aid in ensuring the process is efficient and effective by making sure conversations are productive, as well as minimizing overall conflict that can occur in the future. Areas of colliding interest may include wages, leave entitlements, as well as workload. This will involve both parties creating compromises to achieve mutual gains. For example, the creation of a fatigue-conscious rostering system for pilots. What should be done if parties disagree? As an executive at Qantas, the primary threat to avoid when it comes to negotiation is possible conflict. This is due to the cost businesses go through when conflict occurs, with procedures such as arbitration having a high cost attached. When there is a disagreement in interest-based negotiations, it will involve the options fabricated. The best course of action is to step away from the conflicting issue and resume negotiations of other aspects. This will allow for individuals to gain a broader perspective and reassess what compromises can be made regarding the options at hand. Involving a mediator can assist in alleviating any disagreements as well, as their purpose beyond ensuring effective communication is to ensure all conflicting interests are resolved. This can be done through the mediator, ensuring both parties can find areas where compromises can be made. If no consensus can be reached regarding a certain option, then it is best to set aside and group up any areas which cannot be agreed upon. Reassessment of interest in certain areas can assist with reaching a consensus. However, this may not be an option for Qantas. Therefore, it may be best to utilize traditional bargaining methods at that point, such as haggling, to reach a conclusion. It is important that good faith is still in practice if traditional methods are used. As an executive looking to minimize any conflict resulting from enterprise agreements, all parties must be well informed regarding any compromises. Next slide. Overall, we hope that this presentation has assisted with developing your knowledge regarding the enterprise bargaining process, with the background information of what enterprise bargaining is, how enterprise agreements are made, along with what unions may be involved. It provides information of what is to be expected from the process and what should be avoided. The recommendations provided will outfit the executive team involved with what should be done during the negotiations to gain optimal outcomes for both the business and employees effective. These recommendations are also designed to keep future risks and conflict to a minimum. Thank you for listening.